All right. So the first bone, we're going to do the upper extremity. The first bone of the upper extremity is the clavicle. Okay. Some features that you need to know about the clavicle are the sternal end versus the acromial end. So the sternal end is much more knobby, and this is where it meets up against the manubrium of your sternum. Okay, it's much more knobby. The acromion side is much flatter. Okay. What you'll note about the clavicle is that it comes anterior first and then posterior, okay? And you know the top side of the clavicle from the underside of the clavicle because on the underside there's this process here, okay? So that's always the underside of the clavicle, okay? So that's the clavicle. The clavicle, the acromial end, meets up with the acromion process of the scapula. Okay, so we'll talk about the scapula next. This is the acromion process of the scapula. This is the spine of the scapula. This is the coracoid process of the scapula. This is the glenoid fossa or glenoid cavity. That's where the ball of the ball and socket joint happens. Okay. This is the subscapular fossa. So this is the anterior part of the scapula, the smooth anterior surface. This is the subscapular fossa. Okay. This would be the supraspinatus fossa, supraspinous fossa also. People call it that. This is the infraspinatus fossa. This would be the medial border of the scapula. This is the lateral border. Okay. So the scapula articulates with the humerus. So the humerus we'll talk about next. This is the head of the humerus. So the ball of the ball and socket joint. This is the head of the humerus. Okay. This right here, just below the head, right here, this is the neck, anatomical neck of the humerus. Okay. This is the greater tubercle of the humerus. This is the lesser tubercle. So this one's much bigger, much more massive. This one's smaller. The lesser tubercle is one of the identifying features of the anterior surface of the humerus. Okay, so this is the lesser tubercle. Running your finger along the lateral border of the humerus, you find the deltoid tuberosity. That's where the deltoid muscle attaches. And if you can continue down to the distal end of the humerus, you find the lateral epicondyle is this ridge right here, and this is the medial epicondyle here. Okay. This articular surface right here is called the capitulum. Okay. And this is called the trochlea. So the capitulum is on the lateral side. Okay. It articulates with the radius, and the trochlea is on the medial side, and it articulates with the ulna. Okay. So here is the radius. So it's going to sit right here like this, and it articulates with the capitulum. Okay. The ulna, this is the trochlear notch of the ulna, and it sits right here like this. So the trochlea sits in the trochlear notch of the humerus. This fossa right here on the anterior surface, the smaller fossa right here, is called the, and I'm going to draw a complete blank, coronoid fossa right here. There's also a larger fossa on the backside. This is the olecranon fossa. Okay, so if we put that ulna back in place, okay, the coronoid process of the ulna sits inside the coronoid fossa of the humerus in elbow flexion. And in elbow extension, the olecranon process of the ulna sits in the olecranon fossa of the humerus. Whoops. So that is the humerus. Thank you. All right, here's the radius. So the things you need to know about the radius is this is the radial head. Look, it looks like the head of a nail. Okay, that's the radial head. Okay, and then this is the styloid process of the radius. Styloid means pointy. It's going to be on the lateral side, okay, in anatomical position. This is the lateral or the lateral side of the radius, so this is a styloid process. Okay. The ulna, we've already talked about a couple of these. This is the olecranon process here. This is the trochlear notch. This is the coronoid process. And then down here at the end is the styloid process of the ulna. Okay. And then we move on to the hand. Okay. So there are 8 carpal bones in the hand. Okay. And then we have metacarpals and phalanges. So we always start on the thumb side of the hand, naming the bones. This is the scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetrum, and then right on top of the triquetrum right here, this is the pisiform. Okay, now on these models, these are fused together, but that's just so the pisiform doesn't run away. Okay, this is the pisiform. Okay, so the first proximal row, the proximal row of the carpals, which is how we name them, we start from the thumb side. Scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. Then we go back to the thumb side to name the distal row. Okay, so this would be the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate, and the hamate. The hamate in the palmar view, which is always how we're going to name them, has this hook to it. So I don't know if you can kind of see this hook right here. That's the hook of the hamate. That's one way you can always tell that that's the hamate. Okay, and then we have our metacarpals. Okay, we name those starting on the thumb side. So this is the first metacarpal, second, third, fourth, and fifth. The phalanges are named the same way. We start on the thumb side. So this is the first proximal phalange. Okay, this would be second proximal phalange, third proximal phalange, fourth proximal phalange, fifth proximal phalange. And then this is the distal, first distal phalange, because the thumb only has 2. All the other fingers have 3. So this would be the second middle phalange, the third middle phalange, fourth middle phalange, fifth middle phalange. Okay, second distal, third distal, fourth distal, fifth distal. Okay, you can stop.